Great day to you from the SKZs. So, before I start this video, please don't forget to like, comment, share and subscribe to our channel. Today we're going to talk about INCOTERMS Category F. So, let me start off with a little introduction. These are my team members, myself, Saffronisha, and Siti Zulfahana along with Kirti. I'm going to be talking about the types of INCOTERM Group F. There are three types, which are called FCA, Free Carrier, FAS, Free Alongside Ship, and FOB, Free On Board. Now, as you can see, all these three INCOTERMs have their own responsibility costs and risk. For Free Carrier, FCA, the buyer is responsible for loading the cargo onto the vessel, the risk being the transfer takes place at an agreed upon point. For the Free Alongside Ship, FAS, the buyer is responsible for loading the goods on their transport and everything else necessary to get the goods to the final destination. The risk being the goods transfers from the seller to the buyer when the goods are alongside the ship and the buyer bears costs from that point forward. Last but not least, Free On Board for FOB, the seller is responsible for loading the cargo onto the vessel and the buyer assumes the risk on the vessel. Now, I shall pass this along to my good friend Siti Zulfahana to talk about the advantages and disadvantages of FCA, FAS and FOB.
FCA use of FCA INCOTERMs allows buyers to have greater control and frees the documentation burden. Buyers can choose the preferred carrier or transportation method. This could help delay delays and also save money. Additionally, the buyer does not need to handle the formalities involved in exporting. This is because these are the seller's obligation under the FCA agreement. The advantage of the buyer when purchasing under FOB INCOTERM is they have the most control over the logistics and shipping costs, which allows them to choose their shipping method. FOB allows the buyer to select the freight forwarder for the entire shipment instead of relying on the supplier for part or all of the freighting process. The buyer only needs to rely on a single company through the transportation process, thus minimizing the back and forth and potential for massive communication between two shipping companies. FOB INCOTERMs are also the most cost-effective option as it allows the buyer to shop for the best possible shipping rate, while the transfer of risk occurs when two goods are safely loaded onto the shipping vessel. The buyer's forwarder is responsible for the entire transportation process. Once the cargo leaves the seller's warehouse, the buyer is in possession of the load and can better control the successful outcome of their shipment. The advantage of using FAS for buyers is that it gives the full control from the moment the goods are placed alongside the ship. The buyer needs to ensure that the vessel has the ability and capacity to load the goods from the quay or bridge, or that there is suitable lifting equipment. Buyer is responsible for both cost and responsibility for loading. The second advantage of using FAS is if the buyer needs additional documents such as a certificate of origin. In such case, the seller must assist the buyer at the buyer's request, risk and cost in obtaining it. Otherwise, problem may arise if the issuing authority in the seller's country shows a company registered in that country as the exporter or shipper since the seller is only an exporter, not a shipper or forwarder.
Next, I'll be explaining about the disadvantages of Intercom Group F, which are FCA Intercom, FAS Intercom, and FOB Intercom. Let me start off with the FCA Intercom. Now, I'll be explaining about the disadvantages in Intercom Group F, which are Free Carrier Intercom, Free Alongside Ship Intercom, and Free Onboard Intercom. Let me start off with Free Carrier Intercom, which is FCA Intercom. In terms of drawbacks, the important disadvantage is the purchaser is still a participant at the point of origin. This means that there are charges for loading and terminals to the purchaser. Because of this process, it could result in a delay in the delivery if there are issues. In this case, the buyer would need to wait for the seller to resolve the matter. The International Chamber of Commerce, ICC, which is the responsible party for intercoms, suggests that you use FCA only in containers used for shipments. The reason for this is that the containerized item will be moved from the place of sale directly to the destination. Thus, by default, the location agreed upon is the terminal. Moreover, the risk shifts to the buyer will all export formalities are completed. If the location of the agreement is not the terminal, that the risk to the buyer is only transferred after the goods have arrived at the place. In the meantime, the buyer will have to pay for the expense of unloading the goods at the designed location. In addition, the buyer also must complete the formalities to export and pay costs for loading the carriage and transporting it up to the destination. Another issue is that in few nations, such as China, FCA Incoterms is not very popular, or in some cases, the parties aren't aware of the law. In case an outside party insists on FCA and the other party isn't at ease with it, there could be confusion. Therefore, it's always recommended to choose Incoterms, which both sides can agree on. Next is free alongside ship Incoterm. The disadvantages are: it can be risky for the seller as the vessel might not arrive on time, and the seller may transport the goods to the dock or port only to find out that the vessel is not present. This increases the risk of loss and damages that may come to the goods till the time the vessel reaches the designated place. In case of no agreement made for the seller to get any transportation, then it is the seller's obligation to assist the buyer in getting the documents required for the transportation of the goods. This may increases the workload and a hassle for the selling party. Moving on to free on-board Incoterm disadvantages. Sellers still have to arrange the export permits. Sellers still have to transport the merchandise from their warehouse until it crosses the rail of the vessel. This includes the custom clearance and the terminal handling charge. Seller cannot recover any loss if the merchandise is already on the board the vessel. Seller cannot recover the price if the buyer failed to nominate a suitable vessel, which eventually makes the BL date to miss the agreed pricing window, and the future pricing is dropping.